Good morning. Welcome to January 28th. Today we're going to be getting into Exodus 19 and 20 and then Matthew 18. Exodus 19 and 20 is pretty significant. It's when God calls Moses to the Mount Sinai, which is the same mount where he came to him with the burning bush, and we see Elijah come there later down the road. But here's an area that God's talking to his people, and a lot of, we always wonder kind of what the Ten Commandments are kind of laid out for, but the Ten Commandments really was God communicating with his people, letting them know the expectations. Did he think that was a salvation kind of thing for him as far as following that? No, he knew that they were going to break it, but that's why he also allowed offerings and sacrifices, and then eventually, obviously, Jesus Christ. So what we see here is God being really untouchable, and the only way he is touchable is through the blood of Christ and through that sacrifice. But really, he was communicating with them to, again, let them know the expectations of him. But it was more, the people crying out once again, really confused on how they're supposed to live and how they're supposed to do things, because they've been in captivity so long. They were coveting each other's property. They were stealing. They were killing. They were putting gods before God, and really God's just laying it out there to give them some kind of guideline on how to live, and that's kind of fits in with us today also. It gives us a guideline. I mean, the Ten Commandments are only 10 really of commands that God gave us. I mean, as we go into Matthew 18, we see about how that we're not supposed to hinder the little children. And just different things that are going on in our lives. Matthew 18 really fits in well. But I love the last part of that, where the guy who was in debt, he pleaded and begged that he wasn't going to be thrown in jail and possibly even killed because of the debt that he had. And then he was forgiven his debt. And then, 2 minutes later, he forgets about his master, giving him that grace and forgiveness of his debt. And he goes and demands that this other person who owes him a very small amount compared to what he owed, he wanted him thrown in jail. He wanted him punished. And there was no forgiveness. There was no love there. And it says, how many times are we supposed to forgive in this text? And 7 times 70. And in other words, it's unlimited, and we're not always willing to step up and do that forgiveness, and we want it, but we're not willing to give it a lot. So this guy, after he goes back, he makes his master angry, and that represents God. I mean, God's not happy when we don't do things the way he's asking us to do, but we expect others to do what we want them to do. So I love the text today. Genesis, God just communicating with his people. Jesus really laying down and sitting down with his disciples and kind of laying out some more guidelines in their life. And it's incredible, because the disciples at the beginning of Matthew 18 was just worried about who was the greatest. And again, our humanism, sometimes we fall into that too, and really, we need to look at humbling ourselves, and I think that's what Jesus was talking about when he says, we need to accept Jesus as a child. They're just so honest and so real and so pure at that point. That's what he wants of us. He just wants us to, come to him with a childlike heart of of love and acceptance and of grace, mercy, and all the great things that God has for us. So I pray that today was a blessing for you, and I will see you in the morning.